my screen is visible to everyone. So, okay. So let us start. Let me open my book first. And let me just do a little bit of revision of what we did yesterday. So yesterday, first we covered some of these functions like zip and all that, but that's not so important. The more important is that I covered this concept of a class. And I mentioned that when you create a class, basically you have to use the keyword class followed by the class name, followed by colon, followed by 4 white spaces, and then the statements are given one by one. This is what creates the class. And then I gave the example of a class called person, which I created, which had 3 class variables, or class variables in Python are called attributes. Attributes. So there were 3 class variables called name, age, and sex. And they were given these default values. Name was a XXX, age was a 0, and the sex was a male. Then we created 2 objects, P1 and P2, both of the persons class. And we did certain other things. I'm sure that all that has been understood by all of you. Then we introduced this so-called init method, which has a double underscore on both sides. I'm doing a very quick repeat just to bring you guys on board. And double under is known as dunder method, double under. So D for double and under, dunder. These are also called dunder methods in Python, double under. There are many such methods. And then I introduced the concept of self. So when you create an object using as shown above, then you can access the properties of object using dot notation like P1 dot name. However, inside the class, you have to access by using self. So you see, think of the class something like function. As I mentioned and again, in a function also, the function definition or the function writing is different from function calling. So function definition and function calling are 2 different things. Similarly, a class definition and a class calling, which is object creation. So when you call a class, you're creating an object creation. These are 2 different things, and one should be able to basically see the, for example, let me just show you again. Here in this code, which I showed, this is the class definition. This is the class definition. That means this is not runnable code. This is not runnable. That means this will not run until it is called. This is class definition. And this are class creation. So in this code, if you run, line 1 to 7 will not run. The first line to execute will be P1 equal to person, Sunil Kumar, male 19. And this Sunil Kumar will go into name, male will go into sex, and age will go into 19. This we had discussed yesterday, I think, if you all remember. Then I'd given you another example where I'd given a default value. So this other example, same class. See, I am adding more and more intricacies to the concept. So I introduced first a class without any init method. Then I introduced a class with the init method with 3 variables. Now I am introducing a class with init method with 3 variables and the default value for one of the variables. So I'm adding a little bit of more complexity. So what is happening? Anju this is the first line of code. This will be, as I told earlier, this will not be executed till it is called, since it is a class definition. The first line of code to be executed will be Anju equal to person, Anju Kumarian female. Note that when you are creating the object, you have to give the class name followed by brackets, and inside the brackets you have to give the names of the variables. When you do that, these variables will get passed to the init method. these variables will get passed to the init method. That is how the class call. That means Anju Kumari will go into name and female will go into sex. And since age has got a default value of 20, so if you don't give any age, then Anju will have an age of 20. This is what I had explained in the last class. So I think we can move ahead. Okay. Now, just one, again, this is a code which will throw an error. What has happened here also, there is an init method with a self, a name, a sex, and an age. Now you see here, the default variable, the variable with the default value is to the left of a variable without a default value. This is not allowed in Python. This is not allowed in Python. So if you run this code, it writes non-default arguments follow default arguments. So age is what? Age is a non-default argument. Non-default argument, meaning it does not have any default value. But sex is a default argument because it has a default value of female. It has a default value of female. So this cannot be to the left of the variable without a default value. This is something which is very similar to what is there in functions. I don't think it requires any more explanation. Okay. So now let us come to the next topic, which is a class which has attributes as well as member functions. So now I'm adding a little bit of more complexity. So just look at this code. Here, there's a class from here to here. This is the entire class definition. So what does this class have? This has got three methods. Method number 1, method number 2, and method number 3. So method number 1 is your well-known init method, no problem. This is, I've already explained. So it has got three variables: name, sex, and age. And by the way, you know, when I call this, suppose I call this method with a person, suppose I call from here, then this Radha Kumari will go into name, and this name is different from this name. This name on the left hand side with the dot of self is an attribute of the person's class, whereas this name is something which is being passed to the class through the creation of this object. This distinction is important, you need to understand, but this is not what I want to discuss right now. Apart from this init method, there are two other methods: set L and get L. Set L and get L, basically setting of the language and getting of the language. So set lang, though I have created another attribute of this class person, which is not there in the initial function. Definitely, let me just become a bit dirty. Let me just clear it up. So let me just clear it up. So I have created two functions, set L and get L. So I am passing three variables: name, sex, and age. But I can have more variables, and one of them is lang. But then since lang is a variable of this particular class, I have to use self.lang equal to lang, right? Okay, now let us just run this piece of code, and then maybe we'll get a better idea of what I'm talking about. Just one second, just give me a minute. Yeah. Just one sec. Yeah. This is the code. I'll just show it. I'll run it line by line. I'll explain it to you guys. So don't worry. So this is the code. This is a bit. Okay. So I've created a class person. I've written three methods. This one, init, then setL, and then def get L, right? Now just note one thing, that set L does not have a return method. This method does not have a return statement because it is simply required to set something. Whereas the get L, which is a method to find out what language is the language of this particular class or object, this has got a return method. Okay. So you have no return. That means this is not there. This return is there. Now let us, so from, again I repeat, from here to here, this is your class definition, which is non-runnable code. The first line will be here, Radha equal to person Radha Kumari. Since I'm having default values for 2 out of the 3 variables, if I give only one variable, I'm good. So print, before setting language, radha.getL. Now, lang here, lang is, even though lang has not been passed, in the constructor, the lang has been set to Hindi. So now, I get, before setting, so when I print this, I will get this statement. Before setting language, language is Hindi, right? Now what I do is, I Radha dot settle with English. So I'm calling a method, since note settle and getL. These are both methods of this class. Therefore, any object of this class can use these methods by using the dot operator. That is exactly what I'm doing. I am doing radha.setL English, setting the language to English. And then I write, just let me just clear this out. And so before setting, when I use radha.getL, and then I get Hindi. But when I set the language by using the settle method English, and then when I ask radha.getL, I get English. So is this concept clear?
Yes, sir, I have a query
Yes,
with
please.
this line. Radha is equal to person, bracket, and Radha Kumari.
Right.
How come this work by class?
Yeah.
How the class identify this?
How the, see,
Uh,
this is a class. See, when I write Radha, no, let me just clear this out. Let me just focus on that. You're talking about this particular line, right? Yeah.
yes, sir.
Right. So I'm creating an object of the type person. I'm creating an object of the class person, and that the name of that object is Radha. The name of that class is person. Now, when I create that object, I have to use brackets. I have to use person followed by brackets. Now, inside these brackets, I have to pass certain variables. So if I can, so the class, there could be a class which doesn't have any initiation, then in that case, I don't pass any variables. But suppose the class is having an init method where certain variables are being set, then, and those variables, if some of them don't have default values, then I must pass the values for the default values. Here, the init, if you look at this init method, it has got, apart from self, it has got 3 other variables: name, sex, and age. There is a default value for sex. There is a default value for age. So I must pass at least the value for name.
Okay, got it, sir.
If I don't pass the value for name, it will throw an error, because then the Python interpreter will not be able to decide कि name की जगह पे मैं क्या रखूं, right? I hope that is clear.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. So I think, but you're asking the right question, but on the wrong issue, because here the issue is not the creation of the class, but the use of these 2 methods, the settle and getL. In fact, if you use a language like C++ and Java, they have this concept of private variables and public variables. A Java class will have variables which are private and which are public. That is, they call it information hiding. So normally in a Java class or a C++ class, you will find these kind of methods, setting something and getting something. So they will not allow you to change the variables directly. Like in Python, I could change this language variable directly. I could do Radha dot lang equal to English. I could do like this. Let me just show you. Let me just show you. I will then maybe you will understand. Okay. So let me write like here. Let me just it'll take a minute. Let me write Radha dot lang. Let's call it something else. It's a French. Print Radha dot lang. So what I get? So I get this before setting Radha dot getel has become French. So I am able to just you need to understand. I'm able to change the value of the variable using this. Radha, I take the object and I use the dot operator and I use the lang variable and I'm able to create get a new value. You can do this in Python, but most programming languages, especially those which are concerned about data hiding and data safety, they will generally not allow you to do these kind of things because lang is a private. Lang in C++ is most likely it can be public, but that is why you find public void. If you use C++, you will see public void int something. That's how it starts. So this public means that this is public. So by default the variables inside a C++ class are private. That is why if you try to do this, a C compiler generally will not allow you to do it. But Python being a very, very permissive language and therefore very easy to learn, but very dangerous to use also. So you can keep on playing around with the variables of the class without much fear. But this is a bad way of programming. You should not change variables like this. You should if you're writing the classes, you should create functions to set and to get the values of the variables rather than changing them around the code. Is that clear?
Yeah, it's just like a data binding concept.
Data binding.
Yes. We are using class variable object, then using function objects and assigning value to it.
No, this is, you see, let me explain. Now, if you want me to go into that, I can go into that. But if you let me just show you. If you to do a Google on say, let us say C, let's struct struct in C++, or in C. So let me just W3 is very good this thing. So let me just show you. In C, there's a constructor called struct. It has created a structure named myStruct with two variables. One is a mynum and other is a myletter. Mynum is an integer and myletter is a char. See, just note, it has given int mynum. It has not given any value to this, but it has defined the type of this mynum. So it has created a box. It has created a box like this, but this box, it has named the box to be mynum. It has named the type of the box to be int, but it has not put anything inside that box. You can't do this in Python. You cannot write, you have to write mynum equal to 5 or something, or 0 or x, or no, not x, 5. So if you do this in Python, then Python will automatically presume that mynum is a box, is a container which contains a 5, and the data which it contains happens to be an integer. That is the difference. I don't know. Does it make sense? I hope it does. So I think we are getting distracted. Let us move ahead because we have a lot to cover. Okay. Concept of instance methods or methods applicable to objects, static methods, and class methods. So we'll talk about this. should we skip this? It's a bit, okay, let's do it. As pointed out earlier in Python, there are classes and instances of these classes which are called objects. There may be a scenario where you are not interested in instance variable, but only in the class variable. There is a difference. As I told you, the class is the factory and the object is the product of that factory. So there could be a variable which is specific to a particular object, but there could also be a variable which is common to all the objects. That would be a class variable. In a person class used above, suppose the programmer wanted to know the number of objects of type persons created. This number is not relevant to a particular object, but rather to a class
Hello,
as a
sir.
whole. Yeah.
Sir, I think your screen is unshared.
So you have stopped sharing the screen.
Really?
Yes. Sir.
Somebody did it. I was shared anyway. Okay.
Yes.
Am I good now?
Right. Yes. Sir.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So, like, yeah. In Python, there are classes and instances of these classes called objects. There may be a scenario where you are not interested in instance of the class, but the class variable. For example, in the person class used above, suppose the programmer wanted to know the number of objects of type persons created. This number is not relevant to a particular object, but rather to the class as a whole. I mean, I can, there could be a scenario when you're writing a script and you're using a class A person and you are creating objects of the class person, but your program also wants to know how many objects of the type person are created. Now, how many persons have been created from the person class is something which is not of the concern of the individual object, but rather of the class as a whole. These are class variables, and they are actually using the class name rather than the object name. This is similar to a car factory where the individual car object may not be interested in knowing how many cars are produced, but the factory manager might want to know the number of cars produced. So I've given the example. Let me run this code and then it will become clear to you. So let me just run this. Okay. Now again, I've created, see, I'm adding a little bit of more complexity to the same class. I'm using the same class person so that you guys are in the context and you're able to relate. The same class person has again got two methods. One method is init method and other is the def numpy, number of persons. Now, the first thing you can note is that you see any method to create any method which is a method of the for object, it has to have self as the first parameter, like here. But here NP does not have self as the first parameter, right? So it is a static method. That means it is not a method of the particular object, but rather it is a method of the entire class, right? Now you see, I'll little so. Now what has happened to tell the Python interpreter that this numpy is a static method? The earlier method in the earlier technique in Python 2 was to use this keyword static method and put the name of the method inside. So once the Python sees these two things, it doesn't see a self over here, and it sees this keyword static method, it understands कि अच्छा numpy is not a method of the object, but a method of the class, right? Okay. And then what I'm doing, I am doing inside the def. I'll just show you again. Inside the def, I have used the name of the class person dot count equal to person dot count plus 1. This count is a variable which is here. So I am not using self here. I am using person capital P person dot count equal to person plus dot count plus 1. That means this count method, then this will understand. The interpreter is very smart. It will understand, okay, so this count is coming with the name of the class rather than the self. So this is not a instance method, but rather it's a class method. It's a class method, and it is not instance method. Instance means example or instance of a class. It is not instance. So count is not an instance method. This is clear from the person.count is equal to person.count plus 1. So every time the init is called, this count variable will get increased by 1. All right. And this number NP method will give you the number of objects. So let us let me just when we run this code, we get. So again, I'm repeating from here to here is the class definition, which is not runnable code. I'm creating one object here, 2 objects here, 3 objects here. So I have created 3 objects of the class person. And when I call person.np, it will take me to this method, which will take me to this variable, which has become 3 because I've created 3 objects. And that is why I get a count of 3. Is that clear? Shall we move ahead? Anyone? I think we have a pin drop silence, so maybe.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah, shall we move ahead? Okay. So actually, this is not very important from you guys' point of view, because as I understand that आप लोगों का basic aim is to do hacking and all that. So maybe anyway. Okay. Now, this is the second way of doing the same thing. I'll just show you. This is the second way of doing the same thing. So just let me show you. Again, I've run the same code. There's a slight difference. Instead of using that static method, I've used this particular technique A at followed by the word static method. This is called a function decorator. Function decorator is a slightly advanced concept. It's not a good idea to do it right now. For those who are interested, I can take a class later on. But for the moment, let us just accept the fact that the moment you write this word above a function, then the Python interpreter will understand that this method class ka method, object ka method nahi hai, instance method nahi hai, class method hai. So the same, just compare the two codes. Here we did this. This is what we did in Python 3, and this is what we did in Python 2. Old method of defining static card. This might work in Python 3 also, but you should not use this. You should not use this. You should not use this method. Rather, you should use this method. You should use the function decorator static method in case you need in your code to create a function which only caters to the class and not to the individual objects. Then in that the definition of the function should be preceded by a line of code called static method, which is a function decorator. So if this is clear, we can move it. I'm open to questions, because I would like to take up your questions and tell me that this is something which you don't agree with, this is something which you don't accept, anything.
So what is the difference between the previous method and this method? It will give us the same results.
Same output. Yeah, same output.
What's the difference?
The difference is that this is a better way of doing things. This is something which is, for those, it doesn't matter to you, but in fact, you should not worry about the previous one. Just learn this one. The difference is that this is a better way of doing things, and function decorators is a great programming technique. It's something which you will, if you read any code, you will find hundreds of these kind of decorators all over the code. So this is a better way of doing things. Just accept my word for that. And if you want to go into the details, we can do it, but then we'll get sidetracked from our main topic. All right.
Okay.
So just accept it, and because at some point of time you have to accept it. You have to accept the truth at some point. You cannot go, because then then you'll be ending up in a rabbit hole. You go deeper.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Now let me give you another example. Yeah.
So what is the difference between class method and instance method?
Oh God. Class method is something which is okay. Let me just give you this example. Maybe this will help you, right? Now let me just let me just show you this. This will help.
So can you give a analogy, like you started this session yesterday with a good analogy that car is a class and Maruti is an object.
Right.
People can relate. So this is where such concepts probably would require an analogy.
Yes,
to
I
get the
can.
message.
As I said, if you are a buyer of a car, you are an object. But if you are the factory manager who wants to know how many cars are built in that particular factory, then you are a class or class variable. Does it help?
Yeah, it does.
Because you as a car buyer, you don't give a damn about how many cars are the factory is producing, right? You are only interested in your car. You just want a Maruti car with a blue color, with shiny lights or whatever you want, with a very beautiful music system, whatever. That's your outlook to a car, to whatever Maruti. But suppose you are the factory manager. Basically, this will become let's just listen to this example. I'm sure this will become very clear. Let me do this one more example. Then I'm sure it will help. This is splitting across pages right now. Okay. Let another example will clarify the need for. Suppose you create a class products, which among things has a class variable called tax rates. Suppose you are writing a program in which you are having different products. Maybe it's a program you have written for a sales for a shop who is selling different kinds of things, maybe vegetables, fruits, whatever, 20, 30 types of things. And there is a variable called tax rate. And suppose that tax rate is uniform across all the products which you are creating. Let us go further. This will become clearer. Now, suppose that this tax rate is common to all the objects and may be increasing or decreasing from time to time. As the government increases the taxes, the tax rate may go up. As the government decreases the taxes, the tax rate may go down. So the tax rate is actually not an object property, but rather a class property because it is the same for all instances of products. So I hope that answers your question. So anything which relates to all the objects, it could be the number of objects, it could be a tax rate which is common to all the objects. So this tax rate is more of a class property rather than an object property. Okay. Now suppose a new tax rate is announced and you need to change the tax rate for all the products that you have. This means that you need to increase or decrease the tax rate. You need a static method which does not depend upon the object of class products. So let us just do this code. I'm sure you'll understand this thing very well. This is the code here. I'll go over it. Don't worry. I will not leave you guys midstream. I will make sure that every one of you understands. At least I will try every line of code which I write. Yeah. Okay. Now let me just explain this code to you. So what I've done over here, I've created a class called products. I've given it a tax rate equal to 0, right? And there is no self before the tax rate. Therefore, if I put self dot tax rate equal to 0, then I would have this tax rate would have been a object variable rather than a class variable. So it's very important to follow the language. So instance variables are variables of the objects, and instances of classes are also objects. So objects are also called instances of the class. So tax rate is not an instance variable, rather it's a class variable. Now I have defined init method, which takes one variable name, which has a default value of an empty string. It has nothing inside. See, there's a blank here, empty string. And I put self.name equal to name. Therefore, whenever I create the class product, I need to, if I don't give any name to that product, the name of the product will be an empty string. I will show you. So self.name print tax rate for the object is products. Now note, I've written products.tax rate. So I've used the class name over here, even though I'm inside the class. Therefore, the Python interpreter understands that tax rate is not something which is specific to the particular object or to the particular instance of the class, but rather it's a variable of the entire class, or it's a class variable. Now, what I've done, I've used the static method decorator to create a method called add interest. And I put rate increase equal to 0. Now I'm writing product.tax rate is equal to product plus rate increase. So what is rate increase? Rate increase is the variable which I'm giving to the add interest method. So there is an add interest method. Don't get worried, which has got a variable named rate increase. So if I don't give any value to rate increase, it will be 0. But if I give a value, it will be that particular value, and this value will just, let us just see the, just go over this again. So I have now what I'm doing, I'm increasing the tax rate. Products.add interest 0.5. And you see, now what will happen? This rate increase is not 0, but rather 0.5. So the products.tax rate becomes equal to tax rate, which was 0 plus 0.5. Therefore, tax rate becomes 0. So new tax rate is 0.5. This is what we get over here. And then I do one more thing. Then I call it again with the add interest rate of 0.5. Now note that after this line of code, the tax rate has become equal to 0.5. So when I call it again with this thing, it again increase becomes 0.5. So it becomes 1. So is this clear? I mean, does it require any further explanation? Or with these two examples of a class variable and a class method and the use of the decorator, see, there are many changes. This doesn't have a self. It has a static method with the static decorator. Then it uses the class name and not the object name, or rather the self keyword. So these are the changes. So if this is clear, we can move ahead. Anyone? Any questions?
Yes, that's clear.
Yeah, clear. Okay. Okay. So
Sir,
we have come.
इसमें ये भी हो सकता है क्या, जैसे कि हमने एक स्पेसिफिक ग्लोबली यूज किया एक वेरिएबल टैक्स रेट के लिए, क्या हम स्पेसिफिक भी कर सकते हैं कि इस पर्टिकुलर क्लास के लिए ही एप्लीकेबल हो और ना हो, दूसरे के लिए ना हो, ग्लोबली?
Wait, it's not a global variable. It's inside the scope of the class. I'll show you. I'll just show you. It's not a global variable. If you try to print this tax rate outside the class, suppose you write here print tax rate, it should throw an error, but sometimes right. See, tax rate is not defined. Clear? It's not a global variable. It's a local variable. It is inside. It will exist only inside the class. Yeah, you can print it from inside the class. You can return it from inside a method. You can put it into a something like a list which doesn't get destroyed. As I told you, those there are by passing by reference and passing by value. You can put it inside a list. Let me show you. Okay, let me just, if you're interested, let me just do something like this. Let me do this. Suppose I write my list is equal to, I don't know if this will work or not. Let me see. And I create suppose it's how do you add it? I've forgotten. You can add this tax rate to the list. Let me just you can do it. So I hope you have understood what.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. So let's move ahead because we have a lot to cover, and if we go like this, then we might get stuck. Okay. The next concepts are not very relevant, but data hiding, mangling, pseudo private member variables in a class. Python supports the concept of mangling. Mangling का हिंदी का मतलब होता है कि तोड़ मरोड़ के उसको कुछ कर देना, मतलब that is what I understand. The concept is very simple. Inside a class, you may use a variable name which is also being used in another class. Then how do you differentiate between these two similar variables? Especially in a case of multiple inheritance, we are deriving the child class from parent. I think we'll skip this topic. We'll do this once we come to inheritance. Let us skip this. Let's not waste time, right? So by and large, I have given you guys a very, very basic introduction to classes. So one part of the classes is over. The other part of classes, which is chapter 14, is inheritance, which we'll be covering after I do this particular topic of what is called built-in attributes and methods of Python modules and classes. But before I move ahead, are you guys good with classes, or do we need to understand any concept? This is the time to ask me. Otherwise, if you don't have any questions right away, you can mail it to me, you can text it to me, you can put it in the group, or whatever you want. So if you guys are good, we can move ahead. Anyone? Right.
Let's move, sir.
Yeah, okay.
Let's move.
Now I'm going to talk about something like built-in attributes and methods of a Python modules and classes. You see, these these are very loaded statements. Built-in attributes and methods of Python modules and classes. What I'm trying to say is that whenever you create a Python module, we are not covered how to create modules, but suppose you did create a module, or you are using somebody's module, then the moment you create a module and the moment you create a class, what happens? Certain attributes and methods are created automatically, even without your creating. It's very, very important to let me repeat this statement. The moment you create a class, forget about the moment you create a module and the moment you create a class, certain attributes are automatically created and certain methods are automatically created. Let me just go back to my book. So, yeah, this is a static dynamic. Forget about dynamic typing. This is only confuse you guys. Okay. In Python, once you define classes, let's talk about classes. And once you create objects of these classes, then Python automatically provides certain built-in attributes to these classes and objects of these classes. So the built-in attributes are not defined by the script writer. They're automatically created by the Python interpreter. So I'll be talking about this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. 7 items coming out of this 1, 2, and 3. Let's have a look at it again. So let me just yeah. So automatically created attributes and methods in Python. These are the 2 attributes of modules. Remember, Python module, not Python classes. These are the 3 attributes of Python class. And these are the 2 methods of the Python class. Let me repeat. So these 2 are the attributes of the Python module. These 3 are the attributes of Python class. Attribute of Python class. And these 2 are methods of Python class. And all these things are created by the compiler on its own. That means you, for example, this underscore str bracket, you don't create this method. You don't write the code for this method, but the moment you create a class in Python, this method is automatically created. So I've given, there are many such methods, many such attributes. I've just picked out some. I've picked out 2 attributes of modules. I've picked out 3 attributes of classes, and I've picked up 2 methods of classes. So the 2 attributes of module are underscore underscore name underscore underscore this one, then underscore underscore module underscore underscore this one. These are the 2 attributes of modules. Then I've taken out 3 attributes of classes, which is underscore underscore dict underscore underscore this one. Notice that there is no bracket because attributes don't have brackets. So attribute will not dict. You cannot write dict underscore underscore like this. You cannot write like this because dict is not a method, it's an attribute. Similarly, doc, similarly basis, and I picked up 2 methods. Method, you see, this is the difference between a function and a method. Any function which is defined outside a class is called a function, and a function which is defined inside a class is generally called a method. You can call it class function also, but it's better to call it a method. So these are the 2 methods. So these are the things I'll be covering in this session right now. So let's talk about name. As I mentioned, name is a module attribute, and not a class or an object attribute. So name is something which is stuck or which is added to the module and not to a class. You know that every module, that is, by the way, every module in Python is a .py file. This I have not mentioned because I don't want to go into those. So if you have suppose example called re.py, which is for regular expressions. So the file will be re.py, but when you import it into Python, you will write import re. Import re. Similarly, there's a file called pandas. This will be pandas.py. But when you import this, you will import pandas. You will not use the .py, right? So coming back, a module. So name is a model attribute. It is not an attribute of the class. Okay. If the module is being executed, then its name attribute will have a value of main. And if the module is not being executed but only being imported, then the name attribute will have a value of equal to the name of the module. It is again emphasized that name is an attribute of the module and not of any class. Note that every module in Python is automatically assigned a name attribute, every module. So if you want to know whether a Python module is being imported or executed, just check the value of its name attribute. This I will show on a piece of code, right? So this part is clear. Let me just come back to, yeah, let's do this. This will become clear. Don't get worried if you are getting lost or something. We'll cover everything. Yeah. Okay. So what I have done, I've imported a module called regular expressions. We have not covered regular expressions. We have skipped it because मुझे लगा कि doing classes is more important, but I am told by Mr. Balaji that you guys may want to do regular expressions also, but that's a complete topic on its own. We can do some introduction. We get a time. So I'm importing RE. Now there are 2 print statements. One is here and one is here. This print statement is giving this output, and this print statement is giving this output. Let us see this. Name of the main module, this is printed here, and name. So this is the module of this particular program. This particular script, the module is main. Right? And if I just clear it out and again write it. And when name of the module being imported, re.name, the module which I've imported, it writes re, the name of the module. Does it make sense? Anyone? Okay, I presume you've understood this. Let's move ahead to the next topic, to the next thing. Okay. Just okay, let's talk about this. So if you remember, I talked about two attributes of the module. First was name, and the second is module. So we have discovered name. We have to talk about module. We have covered name. Now, just like the name attribute, module is also an attribute of the Python module, and not of a class. The module attribute is very useful in knowing the module to which a class or function might belong. This might be useful in locating the source code file for a particular class or function. For example, consider Python module RE for regular expressions. You have studied, or you forget about this. If you import this, there's a method in RE called search. Let's import this function. Later on, want to know from where it has come. Let me just show this code to you. This you will understand. Yeah. Once you see the code, let me just. Okay. What I have done, the RE module has a method called search. Now, even though search is a method, when you import it, you don't use the round brackets around it. That is the convention. Now, I'm saying use, this is a comment, use module attribute to get the name of the module. So now I suppose somewhere down the program, I forget, ye search kahan se aaya hai? I have forgotten. Maybe it has come from something, then come from, there can be a situation where you really don't know from where this search has come. So I'm saying print search belongs to the module search, which is the function dot module, and it is giving you output of C. That means this model attribute of the search function of the RE module will give you RE. And notice that you did not, this module attribute was not created by you. You have nowhere defined it in your program. This is something which has come on its own into your script. It is something which has been gifted to you by the Python interpreter. So module is an attribute of the modules, various modules. Does it make sense? Shall we move ahead? Anyone? I think I'm
Sir,
very
sir,
silent
so
class. So are we going too fast?
so can we say that this method help us to find from where the this function has been imported? मतलब ये हमें
Now, see,
इस
now let you must be very precise when you talk about programming. This is not a method, it's an attribute. Number one, that's important.
Okay.
So module underscore underscore module underscore underscore this. Let me just write this. This is not a method, it's a module.
it's an,
Right.
it's
Number
an
one,
attribute.
it's an attribute. So what are you asking? Well, it's a
So I'm saying, sir, कि this attribute help us to find from where this search has been imported.
right, exactly. Absolutely. So it will tell you the module from this where this search has come. Very simple thing. All right. So we have covered the two modules of the. Let me just come back because you. So because these things again get a bit hairy, because people first time programmers may find it difficult. So we have covered name. We have covered module. Now we are going to cover these three attributes. Again and again, I use words attribute, method, so that it gets fixed in your mind. And now we're going to cover these three attributes of classes created in Python. These are created, again, these are built in, they are created by the Python interpreter, not by the programmer. Dict, doc, and basis. Let's see them. Let's have a look at it. So let's go. The dict attribute automatically provides. I'm in my book also, I'm repeating these words so that I drill it in your mind that this is something which is coming to you as a gift, which is not being done by you. So attribute of both classes and objects in the form of a dictionary and can be accessed by using classname.dict or objectname.dict. So if you create a class inside your program, and if you use that class name followed by .dict, now you notice that I have used capital C for class. In fact, I should have used small o for object because classes in Python should always start with a capital letter. an object should never have a capital, they should always start with a small letter. In fact, there is a, let me just digress a little bit from here because it's important. There's a thing called, let me just, in Python, there's a concept called, this is important, it's called PEP. Python, you will find a lot of PEPs. And this Guido, the one, Rosam, whatever, how do you pronounce it? I don't know. This guy is the designer or he's called benevolent dictator for life. So they call him, with the out of affection, they call Guido van Rossum, the person who wrote Python as BDFL, benevolent dictator for life. So he's a dictator. That means whatever he says will be included in Python, and whatever he says will not be included. But he's benevolent. Benevolent means somebody who's kind-hearted. So he's willing to listen to ideas. And whenever somebody comes out with a new idea, they use it in the form of a PEP, which is a Python enhancement proposal. So this is what PEP is. PEP 8 is a style guide for Python code. And I think you should do the search on the research, whatever you can do on your own. The net is full of, I can just show you the direction. I'm just giving you the idea. You can take it forward from those who are interested can do it, right? So we'll not go into that. Let's come back to our dict. So okay, now let us do it with let us take a piece of code and do it. Let me do this. Let me run it. Okay. Now don't get worried by these funny looking numbers. It's very simple. So what I've done, I've created a class called A. Inside the class, I've created two class variables, X and Y. I've done it on purpose. And I've created a init which doesn't have any variable. It doesn't have any constructor variable, but has a variable called W with self.w. All right. Now I'm saying print dict of class A and A dot dict. So I'm using capital A dot underscore dict underscore. So it will print the dict dictionary connected to the class A. Let us see what it has. It has a module, which is main. It has a X. This X is come. So all the variables, including module, even though you have not created the module variable, but it has been created for the class by the Python interpreter. Therefore, it is also part of the dictionary. It is the key is module, the value is main, right? Then X has a value of X, Y has a value of Y, and then init, it has got init is also a key, and then dict, and so on, right? Okay. These are all the. Let me just let me just create some. Let me just write print. Let me just put some X's here so that we are able to. Let me run. So now I know that this line of code is coming from something which is below the X. This is coming from here, and this line of code is giving something which is above the X. That means this. So this dictionary is the dictionary of the class A, and this dictionary, because you see, notice I've created an object of. Let me just again show this to you. So once I printed this, the dictionary of class A, Then what I did, I printed some X's to create the difference. Then I created an object of the type A. And then I printed the dictionary of A. Underscore, underscore, and I get what? I get only a W. I get only this. I don't get this. I don't get this. I don't get anything. So the dict variable or the dict attribute is an attribute of both the classes and the objects created or instances of the classes, but they will contain different things. They may contain same thing, they may contain different things, but they will generally contain different things. Does it make sense? Anybody? Everybody? Shall we move ahead? Anyone? Are we going too fast? Are we good?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone? Are we okay? Okay. Okay. So let's move to the next attribute. Let me just again come back. I like to repeat things. We have covered name and the module, which were the attributes of the module. We have covered one of the three attributes of the class, which is dict. In fact, it's an attribute not only of the class, but also of the object. And the class attribute and the object attributes can be different. Now we are going to talk about doc and basis. So let's do it. So let's talk about doc. Yeah. Another, wait, is it visible? So another common attribute provided is underscore underscore doc underscore underscore. Python provides a way of accessing documentation which is attached to the modules, classes, and functions. Okay. Now I have not discussed this, but let me just do it in just one sec. I'm getting a call. Can you just hold on for a second and okay. So now wait. I'll let me just write this. Okay, no, let's leave it. But let me just say there are two ways of writing comments in Python. There are two ways of writing comments in Python. Let me just insert a cell above. The first method is by using what is called the hash. So if I write hash or whatever hash, and then I write a is equal to 5. So basically when I write print a, I get an a. This particular line of code is not executed. Another way of writing a comment in Python could be three single quotes or three double quotes. Hi there. And then again, three single quotes. So now this is also a comment. So a comment, or you may call it, it is something which is not executed. So there are two ways: using a hash and using triple. You can use the triple quotes on the same line also. You can put something in between, and or you can put triple quotes on different lines. But hash you cannot put on different lines. That means if you start with the hash, only that particular line is treated as a comment. If you want multiple lines, you have to put multiple hashes. So I cannot. So if I want to write, if I write another hash here, hash, and then this will throw an error, right? But if I put a hash over here, I'm okay. So here, these two are also comments, and this is also comment. So now many people ask me when I teach people, that why I have two different types of comments. There's a reason for it. The hash comments are what are called inline comments. They are basically used for explaining the code to the person who's trying to understand the code. So if you have a long piece of code, you want somebody to understand why you're doing something and why you are not doing something, what variables you have, then you will generally use a hash. So you see, there is a difference between a code writer and a code user. So the code writer who wants to, or the code understanding person, the one who wants to understand the code, he has to go for the hash comments. However, the person who wants to use the code, he doesn't want to know how the damn thing works. He just wants to know how to use it. He just wants to know the which variables can be put in the function and what type of variable should be there. So there you will use triple quotes. I will try to give an example. So, but we got displaced from the main comment. Now this doc is way of accessing the documentation which is attached to modules, classes, and functions. Let me just this thing. Okay, I've given an example. Let me just do this. I'll write import math print. So right, this so if that means that the math module, if you go inside the math module, if you open your, I can show you where the source code is, but then I'll get distracted. I will do it in a later class. But if you do into the math module, you will find something triple coded strings, and in between this thing will be written. So this thing will be between triple quotes inside the math module. And the moment you do math.doc __doc _ print, this triple quoted string will get printed. Okay. Let's do for another one. Let's say, let's do for RE. Okay, let's see this. Now, just see, this is a long one. Just see, just when I'm doing, this is support, this whole thing will be included in the triple quotes within the RE module. And the moment I do this statement RE dot, the moment I do this RE dot doc, this entire thing gets printed. Right? Now let us do, for example, search was a function, right? Let me try. I'm not sure whether it will work or not. Oh, search. Yeah. So if you remember, I just shown you in a previous example that RE has a method called search. This we did. And now what is happening? It is printing the doc module, not of the RE doc string, not of the RE module, but of the search function. What does it show? Scan through string looking for a match to the pattern, returning a match object or none if no match is found. This might sound a bit hairy and scary, but don't get worried. These are very, very simple, this thing, and not very difficult to understand. So we will do, don't worry, we will do an example where we'll write our own doc string. Okay. So let us do this. Now this I've given. So let me just run this. So let me just take you down through the code. I have created a class A. Inside the class, I've created a function F1. And in the class, I've written this is docstring of class A in triple quotes. Wait, got 30. So this thing is the docstring. This is called the docstring. Docstring of the class A. And this is the docstring of function F1 of class A, right? So I have now created an object of the class A. Now I'm saying print doc string of class A, and I'm doing capital A dot doc. And what do I get? I get this. And then next I'm saying print the doc string of the object of class A. And I get, yeah, right? Right. And then and then I write print the doc string of the function f1. Let me just repeat this. Let me just come over this again. So basically, what am I doing? I have written 3 print statements, 1, 2, and 3. This first print statement is printing the doc string of the class A, this one, right? The second doc string is printing the doc string of the object A, which will be the same as that of the class, this one. The third is printing the doc string of the function f1, which is this. I think you could use a small a also over here. I think you can. Let me just, can we do this? Yeah, we can. So just understand what I did. This is A1 A dot F1 dot doc. We could have used A dot F1 dot underscore underscore doc underscore, or small a dot F1 dot underscore underscore doc. So this doc string will work both for the class name as well as for the object. Remember, A is the class, this A, and small a is the object, this A. So does this make sense? Anyone? I think somehow I feel I have lost the class because people have stopped responding. So I think I need to stop for a second and just take stock, because there is no point in rushing through the code unless you understand it. So would somebody like to tell me whether they have not understood something or whether they have understood something? Yeah? Anyone? So there are 2 comments in the chat. Let me just see. Yes, sir. Sunny Sharma. Okay. So, okay. So let's move ahead then in that case, because you guys have understood. Now, we have done with the, now third is basis attribute. Now this is the third attribute. Python classes also have a basis attribute. Basis is attribute of a class and not of a module. So this is I've done on an idle. So let me just copy it. I'll have to do a little bit of manipulation. I'll just do it. Okay. So let me just run this. Int underscore underscore basis underscore underscore. So this is a bit, I don't know. Let's forget this basis for a minute. I'm not getting any response from anyone. I think I need to stop for a second and take stock. So would somebody like to speak? Balaji, are you there? Balaji. I don't know. I'm not getting any response from anyone. I need someone to talk.
Can you please explain the attribute of underscore underscore doc and underscore underscore doc?
Underscore underscore doc and
But underscore underscore doc underscore underscore doc. मतलब वही attribute of doc.
I just explained. Yeah, see, doc is an attribute of the of the this one.
of the Python object.
Yeah. The Python object attribute will be the same as that of the class. But the Python doc attribute of the function will be different from that of the class. So if you create this A object here, I've created, see this code I'm talking about. This A object will have the same attribute as the class, which is this. But this function will have a different attribute, which is this. All right. So should we stop here, because I feel that I've lost the class. Somehow I'm not getting the...
सर डॉक स्ट्रिंग आपने बताया था जब आप अपने फंक्शन क्रिएट करना सिखाया था, तब आपने बताया था कि डॉक स्ट्रिंग इज जस्ट अ कमेंट, ऑप्शनल कमेंट.
करेक्ट.
तो बट सर फिर जब हम यहाँ पे क्लास की बात कर रहे हैं,
क्लास में भी आ सकता है. इट कैन बी इन अ क्लास, इट कैन बी इन अ मॉड्यूल, नॉट अ मॉड्यूल, इट कैन बी क्लास, इट कैन बी इन अ फंक्शन. It is an attribute of a class also. It is an attribute of the object of that class also. It is an attribute of the function also. So if you use the class name dot at underscore doc, it will give you the attribute of the class. If you use object name dot underscore doc, it will give you the attribute of the object. If you give the function name dot underscore attribute doc, it will give you the attribute of the function. So depending upon what you are giving it, it will give you the output.
ठीक है सर, वो समझ में. बट ये डॉक स्ट्रिंग होता क्या है? बट ये जैसे
this is, suppose you are using, now let me give an example. Suppose you are using a library called, there's a very important library in Python called request. Request hota hai ki request hota hai? Request hota hai mere ख्याल से. Yeah, request hota hai, fine. Now I want to see what this is, what does it contain? I have no idea. So I do this. Let me just so it says K is a HTTP library written in Python for human beings, import request, then it gives you the example. In fact, I can just let me try. It'll take a minute, but let me just try. Let me just see whether I can. Let me see if I can find the source code on GitHub.
सर पाइथन कमांड प्रो लाइन पे आप हेल्प ब्रैकेट में वो क्लास दीजिएगा डॉक्यूमेंट मेथड, तो आपको पूरा डिटेल आता है.
Correct. वो दिखाइए. That is, sorry, command line पे
आप हाँ कमांड लाइन पे जाके हेल्प
command line
डॉट.
Okay, you want me to
हाँ जैसे ये sys.path है ना,
yeah,
जैसे हेल्प ब्रैकेट में sys.path.
yeah, you can do that. If I can do that.
नहीं, वो एक अच्छा सा उसमें आपको दिखेगा. That is where it will get help. जो डॉक का क्वेश्चन पूछ रहे हैं ना, आपको आंसर वहां मिलेगा कि हाउ इट इज डिफाइंड देयर एंड देन इट इज.
Math is not defined. You have to import math first.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a very simple concept. Basically, it's like this. If whether you are repairing a car or using a car. So if you are using a car, you have your interface. You just want to know कि car करती कैसे, चलती कैसे है. So doc will give you that basic input. But if you want to know how the car is working, then you need to go into the hash command. You need to open the source code. Actually, I was trying, but it will take time. In the next class, I will explain this. I will have it ready, because otherwise we'll get distracted from work, and then I'll not be able to cover the course, because actually I am a bit short of time, so I'm trying to cover as much, because I've taken this on myself to take you guys to the entire course of Python. So I'm trying to do this, but so accept it for the moment and do some research on your own, do some study on your own.
अगर इसका ऑब्जेक्टिव बताएंगे ना तो बहुत आज जल्दी से लर्न होगा कि हम क्यों यूज करेंगे.
यस, मेरा बेसिक क्वेश्चन वही था कि उसका ऑब्जेक्टिव क्या होता है डॉक स्ट्रिंग यूज
उसका
करने का.
ऑब्जेक्टिव ये है कि आपको कोई उसके बारे में आई एम नॉट एबल टू फाइंड. आई विश आई कुड जस्ट let me think of another library. Let me see pandas. Now let me see. I wish I could. Let me see RE library. I will just show you it. Then exactly you will know what I'm talking about. Let me open this. In fact, I've gone also a bit, rusty over the. What's it? Now, I will certainly show it to you, but right now I'm not. Otherwise, let me just see. Okay. If you guys are really interested, I will show it to you, I'm sure. You find it, right? Let's see. Forget about this one. Let me do. Just one second, just give me a minute. Yeah. Okay. Now, I'm just I've opened this file called re.py. Right. So there are certain hash comments in the beginning of the library.
Yes, sir.
And yeah, sorry.
These are all comments, right? Hash से start हो रहा था ये सारे
They are all
comments.
comments. Yeah. And this R, by the way, this R in front of this triple double quotes. These are triple double quotes. Can you see the screen? Triple
Yes, sir.
double
Yes, sir.
quotes.
ये
So
भी
R
comments
means
के
raw
comment
string.
के
I have
comments.
not explained this. R means raw string. So
Okay.
this entire thing is there from here right to, it is going down. This is what is explaining to up till here.
Mm-hmm.
This whole thing is covered in the triple quote. This I've opened the source file of re.py. Don't do it because you might end up. If don't, I've opened it in Notepad++, but I don't advise you to guys open it unless you are very sure. It's better to look on it on the net. It's available on GitHub also. But the point is that the moment I do a re, when I do then re.doc, then this what is coming over here? Support from this thing, this whole thing. Sorry, this whole thing till here. This is exactly same as what is, you can see it. It starts with the letters support for regular expression. It starts from this thing, and this double N is a new line, basically new line. There will be two blank lines. This module provides regular expression, and you can see that this is exactly what is there over here. You can just, let me just show you. So
Sir, this is the multi-line comments.
yeah, multi-line comments, but this is at the beginning of the definition. So this support for this thing has come, followed by two blank lines, which was /n/n, where I'd shown you, and then this whole thing. So this whole thing has been coming because I've done re dot underscore underscore doc underscore underscore. So once I do this, the Python interpreter, what it will do, it will look into the re module and pick out this comment and print it for you, so that without opening the source code, you are able to see what the re module can do. So if you're writing your own modules and you want to tell the user how to use it, for example, now once we do the special characters and all, this is what all is explained in this thing. I think, but we are going off the track, right? We are getting this thing, but then it's important to answer every question of every person who has it. So is it clear, you guys?
Yes sir, yes sir, now clear. मतलब
Yeah.
ये जो मॉड्यूल है उसका डॉक्स्ट्रिंग ओपन करके दे देता है इंपोर्ट फाइल
हाँ, triple quote में. But the thing is
जो-
that this must be in the beginning. If you put some variable and then you put triple quote, that will not be printed by doc.
हाँ ओके अब समझ में आया. ओके थैंक यू सर.
So I think we should stop here, because I don't want to just rush through the entire this thing, because आगे में concept, some of the concepts are going to become even more, they will require some more understanding. So you see, you guys, if you really want to learn the language, you need to do some research and study on your own. And the best way is to either go through my book or to go on the net or to follow the HTML files. So I think I'm going to stop over here with a small.
Hello.
Yeah.
Sir, how to get this book?
Huh?
Book.
It's available on. See, I don't like to. This thing is available.
Amazon पे available है sir. Amazon पे available है, same day delivery.
Yeah, I don't know about same day or not. But amazing. I've done. See, I have not made a single penny out of it. That's not my intention.
No, sir, I have got the book. I bought the book and it is really good. Some of the later chapters.
Actually, sir, lot of books I have seen on Python, but this is the Bible for Python actually.
No.
Yeah, really, sir, really.
So, okay.
For a beginner like me who doesn't know the language, any computer language, this book is like Rambam.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's some of the topics might be a bit heavy. This is the book. I wrote it in 2019. It's already 4 years down the line. So when I wrote this, I think it was Python 3.6, but I just read that new things have come out and Python 3.12 has come now recently.
Yes.
And there are many things like f-string and all that which typing is not covered. I can, but the way we move forward is that from here I would like to take you to this inheritance. Inheritance itself is quite a hairy chapter, because there are many very very subtle differences: single inheritance, multiple inheritance.
Yes, lot of types are there.
Yeah, and then from inheritance I can take you down to maybe exceptions. Because if you don't understand exceptions, then you really cannot. Then from exceptions, then I can take you to regular expressions, or I can take you to various sorting and algorithms like bubble sort and all that. Then from there, once you have covered that, then I would like to take you to NumPy, and then from there to pandas.
Machine learning libraries.
And what about file handling?
What about? Yeah, file handling. Yes, I forgot. File handling is also very important. But I see ultimately the length and breadth of the area to be covered is very large. So you need to decide where you are going. Are you going to be a data scientist? Then you need to go in a different direction. Are you going to be something doing into mapping and all that? Then you need to go into a different direction. Are you going to be a hacker? Then you probably don't need to go into so many details. You need to switch straight away to the various tools. And I have no idea. I'm not a hacker. I have no idea about hacking. I have no idea about hacking tools. My interest is basically into programming. And
Sir, this book contains GUI concepts.
What concepts?
GUI. Graphical user interface.
Graphical user that's for somebody. You're talking about the
means we can build a GUI application.
Yeah, you can. If you know how to program, you can build any kind of application.
No, but this book contains that.
Just like in C, we need to specify the video memory or assembly language or
TK interlibrary then.
No. There's no assembly. You can do it in Python. You can access the C++ this thing. I have not covered it, but there are ways of doing it. But why would you want to go into that? Why would you want to go into?
Those things are not covered. I just seen them. At least
no, they're not covered. This is different. I think your programming needs are slightly different from this book. This book is not meant for somebody who is into hacking. This book is for someone who wants to understand how Python programming is done. That is why I've skipped all those chapters on lists, dictionaries, and tuples and sets. Those chapters I've totally skipped. So those are not required for your work, because you just need to have a very basic understanding of what's a list, what's a dictionary, what is a tuple. There are certain things in between जो थोड़ा बहुत मैं cover कर सकता हूँ. But from my path will be that from chapter 13, I'll be next going to chapter 14, which is this chapter. So the HTML is available on my website. I'm almost done with 13. Yeah.
So one more thing, I am not able to get your this book in HTML format in GitHub also. I don't know why there's some error in my computer or my laptop. I don't know why.
HTML format में नहीं available. It will be
नहीं सर,
table format.
सर मेरे कंप्यूटर में नहीं आ रहा, पता नहीं क्यों, इसलिए फिर मैंने फिर बुक ही मंगवाई.
No, the book, if you want to buy the soft copy, because you see, unfortunately, I made a mistake. I chose McGraw-Hill as my publisher, and they're very strict about their, this rights and copyrights and all that. They don't allow you to this thing. They were quite upset when I put part of the book on the net in my GitHub page also. So that is the problem. Otherwise, for me, this book is not about money. I don't make any money out of. I'm having a good job. I'm having good salary. That's not a concern. But you can get a Kindle edition, but you cannot get a PDF edition, because PDF edition they don't allow. Because that would be then piracy. Because if I try to give you, I have a PDF edition, but I can't share it, because the moment I do it, then I can be, even though it is written by me, but the copyrights are owned by McGraw-Hill also. So I cannot share the PDF of the book, because that is something which was with me when I created the book, right? So I can't give you this HTML. When you're saying HTML, the HTML जो मैंने बनाए हैं, basically let me show you these HTMLs. Basically, these are all created on Jupyter notebooks. A lot of effort has gone into making them. Let me tell you this. Wait, as HTML. So ये जो HTMLs है, basically these are all Jupyter notebooks. And Jupyter notebook में there is a thing called you can convert this code into a markdown. So you could use suppose a hash, hi, and another hash. And when you run it, underscore, I think. I've forgotten. Or maybe it's a double hash. Double hash. I forgot this called markdown. No, it's underscore, I think. I've forgotten. So but this will allow you. So all these things which are written here, ये जो लिखा हुआ है, ये जो पूरा लिखा हुआ है, ये सारा का सारा markdown में लिखा हुआ है. और ये जो सारा का सारा ये कोड में लिखा हुआ है. When I wrote this HTML, what I've done, I've created various cells. So these outputs which you are seeing are cells. For example, this is one cell till here. It is in markdown till here. Then this is also in markdown. This cell is a code cell. And then again a markdown cell from here to here. Then again a code cell. This is what I created a book. And then you can see, you can always, whenever you have this thing, you can do file. Download as HTML. If I do this, I'll get, let me call it something.
There is also option of download as a PDF.
Yeah, it is there. So you can see, I also don't know so many things about, it's every time I teach somebody something, I myself learn something new. So it's a very, very endless kind of a world, So I think we should stop over here. And before I go, I would like to request all of you that if in case you guys really want to take these things forward as fast as possible, then it would be great if you can do chapter 14. You can download this chapter and just study it before we do the next class, because I would like to go into inheritance and namespace, which is it's also very, it's quite a demanding chapter, because you need to, so if you could go through this entire code and then come for the class, that would be perfect, because then you have already pre-digested the food, and then I don't have to then go over every line, and most of the things you have covered. So a lot of code is there in this thing, and there are some very advanced concepts also, like for example, meta classes and all that. These are very advanced concepts. In fact, you will unless you are this kind of concepts are there, I've tried to explain, and then we can go into, then there are some abstract methods, abstract based classes, many things are there. So I think we'll stop over here. Unless somebody has any questions, shall we stop here? All right.
Sir, I made a program using lambda function and recursion
Right,
for factorial, finding factorial,
right.
and it's like working.
Perfect.
Can I show you the code?
Let's not waste everybody's time. You send it to me. Can you mail it to me? I will just, I will just put my email ID on the chat. Can you do it? Can you just mail it to me?
Yeah, sure, sir. Okay.
You know. So this is my mail ID, and I encourage all of you to send me any comment, because I put a lot of effort in my teaching work. This is something which is just a kind of a, you can say, a kind of a something which I like to do. It's not something. It is not my bread and butter. It's my hobby. So if you have any suggestions regarding the way I'm telling things or the way I'm describing things, the language I'm using, that also I would like to hear. And if there are anything which you don't understand, whether inside my book or outside my book or what I have taught, I'll be happy to do the research with you. I'm not claiming I know everything, but I will do the research when I come for the class. All right. Okay, we'll stop over here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, we'll stop here. All right.
Hello. Hello.
Hi, yes, you're here.
I take my feedback. I'm SP Sharma.
Sure, yes, sir.
Can you take one problem statement and how to solve it using Python?
Okay. I will pose this question to sir because I am not someone who's proficient in Python. Would it be okay if he answers you tomorrow or?
So far we had been studying only the basic concept. I think we should take a real use case of problem statement and how to resolve it using
नहीं
Python.
प्लीज क्योंकि एक आप जिस कंप्यूटर लैंग्वेज से बट मैं कंप्यूटर लैंग्वेज जानता नहीं I don't know the basic computer language. So for a student or a person like me who doesn't know the computer language, it's better to if we start and goes from the basic.
अरे ठीक है अभी तो like we had already completed 11 classes but we should have one problem statement also. ठीक है.
Correct. I will pose this question to sir, maybe in half an hour, and we will have that information available to you in the next class.
Fine.
Right. Any other questions?
Shall we leave?
Yeah, sure. The session already ended, so you can go ahead and leave.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.